Synchronicity is an ever-present reality for those who have eyes to see. Carl Jung. You think of someone you haven't spoken to in years. An hour later, they call you. You need an answer to a difficult problem. A book falls off a shelf. You open it, and the answer is on that exact page. You're struggling with a major decision. A stranger on the street says the exact words you needed to hear. Coincidence? Carl Jung didn't think so. He called it synchronicity, meaningful coincidence, when the internal world and the external world align in a way that defies probability. Not random, not magic, not some mystical force. Something deeper. In our previous videos, we explored the archetypes that shape your personality, the hero's journey that defines your transformation, and the dark side that emerges when you ignore your shadow. Today, we're looking at something even stranger. The moments when reality itself seems to speak to you, when the universe arranges itself in patterns too perfect to be random, when coincidence isn't coincidence at all. This is the story of synchronicity. And by the end of this video, you'll never see the world the same way again. In 1952, Carl Jung introduced a concept that would challenge our understanding of reality itself. Synchronicity. He defined it as a causal connecting principle. Two events that occur simultaneously, one internal and one external, connected not by cause and effect, but by meaning. Let me give you Jung's most famous example. A woman came to Jung for therapy. She was stuck, rational, over-intellectual. Nothing was breaking through. One day she told Jung about a dream she had. In the dream, someone gave her a golden scarab, an Egyptian symbol of rebirth and transformation. As she was describing this dream to Jung, he heard a tapping at the window behind him. He opened it, and a scarab beetle flew into the room. In Switzerland, in the middle of winter, a beetle that almost never appears in that region. Jung caught it, handed it to her, and said, "Here is your scarab." Something broke in her at that moment. The rational walls collapsed, and therapy began to work. Was this random? Jung didn't think so. The internal event was her dream of transformation. The external event was a real scarab appearing at the exact moment she described it. The probability was astronomical. The meaning was undeniable. That's synchronicity. Here's another one. Jung was studying the I Ching, the ancient Chinese book of divination. He asked it a question about whether the hexagram he received truly represented the situation. The hexagram he got was called biting through, which means breaking through obstacles. At that exact moment, Jung heard a loud crack in his study. He opened his drawer and found that a 100-year-old knife had spontaneously split in half. Internal event, a question about breaking through. External event, a knife literally breaking. Timing, exact, synchronicity. Jung spent 30 years studying these phenomena not as mysticism, but as psychology. His conclusion: the unconscious doesn't just live inside your head. It communicates through the external world. When you're at a crossroads, when you're undergoing transformation, when your psyche is trying to tell you something, reality rearranges itself to get your attention. So, why does synchronicity happen? Jung had a theory. The collective unconscious. Remember from our first video on archetypes? We talked about how you're not just an individual. You're connected to something deeper, patterns that exist across all humanity. The hero, the shadow, the wise old man. Jung believed synchronicity works the same way. We're not separate from the world around us. We're part of a larger field, a psychoid level, he called it, where mind and matter meet. Now, I know this sounds mystical. But stay with me. Modern physics has discovered something similar. Quantum entanglement, the observer effect. The idea that consciousness and physical reality are more connected than we thought. Jung wasn't claiming magic. He was pointing to something science is only beginning to understand. When your unconscious is active, when you're going through a major life transition, when you're asking deep questions, you become more sensitive to patterns, and the world seems to respond. Skeptics will say it's just pattern recognition, confirmation bias, your brain looking for meaning where there is none. And Jung would say maybe, or maybe both are true. Maybe our brains evolved to detect these patterns because the patterns are real. The meaning you find, that's real too. Synchronicity tends to happen at specific times, when you're at a crossroads, a major decision, a life transition. When someone close to you dies, when you're falling in love, when you're about to make a breakthrough, when the unconscious is activated, that's when reality starts speaking in symbols. And if you're paying attention, you'll hear it. Let me give you some examples you can't easily dismiss. In 1973, Anthony Hopkins was cast in a film called The Girl from Petrovka. He needed to read the book, but it was out of print. He searched everywhere and couldn't find it. He was at a train station in London when he saw a book someone had left on a bench. It was The Girl from Petrovka. Strange and lucky, but not yet synchronicity. 2 years later, Hopkins was on set and met the author George Pfeiffer. Pfeiffer mentioned that he didn't even have a copy of his own book, because he had lent it to a friend in London who lost it on the train. Hopkins asked if his copy had annotations. Pfeiffer said yes. Hopkins pulled out the book he had found and asked if it was this one. It was Pfeiffer's own copy, the one he had lost, the exact book. The probability of that? Almost zero. The meaning? Hopkins was meant to play that role. Here's another one. Mark Twain was born in 1835, the year Halley's Comet appeared. In 1909, he said he came in with Halley's Comet, and it would be the greatest disappointment of his life if he didn't go out with it. In 1910, Halley's Comet returned. Twain died the next day. Coincidence? Prediction? Or did his unconscious know something? Now, the famous one, Abraham Lincoln and John F. Kennedy. Both presidents, both elected exactly 100 years apart, 1860 and 1960. Both were assassinated on a Friday in front of their wives. Lincoln's assassin, John Wilkes Booth, was born in 1839. Kennedy's assassin, Lee Harvey Oswald, was born in 1939, exactly 100 years apart. Lincoln's successor was Andrew Johnson, born in 1808. Kennedy's successor was Lyndon Johnson, born in 1908, exactly 100 years apart. Lincoln was killed in Ford's Theater. Kennedy was killed in a Lincoln made by Ford. You can find dozens more connections. The pattern is undeniable. Some will say you're cherry-picking, that if you look hard enough you'll find connections anywhere. Jung would say maybe, but the sheer number of connections and the symbolic weight point to something. An archetypal pattern playing out across a century. History repeating itself not through cause, but through meaning. One more, a personal one. Imagine this. You're thinking about switching careers. You've been unhappy for years, but you're afraid and uncertain. That week, you see a billboard with a phrase that feels like it was written for you. A friend you haven't spoken to in months calls and mentions the exact field you're considering. You find a book about that career in a waiting room. Someone emails you an opportunity out of nowhere. One coincidence? Maybe random. 4 in a week? That's synchronicity. Your unconscious is trying to tell you something. Pay attention. So how do you know when something is synchronicity and when it's just random? Here's the criteria. First, emotional charge. You feel something. Chills, a sense of that strange recognition. If you feel nothing, it's probably just random. Synchronicity has a numinous quality. It grabs you. Second, meaning. It relates to something you're struggling with, a question you've been asking, a crossroads you're at. If it has no connection to your inner life, it's not synchronicity. Third, timing. It happens at a significant moment, not a random Tuesday, the day you're making a decision, the moment you're asking for guidance. Fourth, pattern. It's not isolated. Multiple related events happen in a short time. When synchronicities start clustering, your unconscious is screaming at you. Let me give you some non-examples. Seeing a blue car, then another blue car, that's just noticing. Thinking of pizza and your friend suggests pizza, common occurrence. Meeting someone with the same birthday, probability. Now, real synchronicity. Thinking of someone you rarely think about and they call within the hour. Needing guidance and a stranger says the exact thing you needed to hear. Dreaming of a symbol and it appears physically the next day. Seeing 1111 or 333 at every meaningful moment in your life. That's synchronicity. The difference? One is your brain looking for patterns. The other is the pattern finding you. So, what do you do when synchronicity happens? Step 1, notice. Don't dismiss it. Don't rationalize it away. Acknowledge it. That's strange. That means something. Step 2, ask what it means. What were you thinking about when it happened? What question were you asking? What decision are you facing? Synchronicity is your unconscious trying to communicate. What is it trying to say? Step 3, journal it. Write down what happened, what you were feeling, what you were thinking. Over time, you'll see patterns. Your unconscious will start speaking clearer. Step 4, act if appropriate. Sometimes synchronicity is a nudge telling you to go this way. Sometimes it's confirmation that you're on the right path. Sometimes it's a warning, telling you to pay attention and look closer. Example, you're considering a job offer, but something feels off. That week, you keep seeing red flags. Literal red flags, red cars everywhere, red signs, red lights. Your unconscious might be saying, stop and look closer. But here's the key. Don't force it. You can't manufacture synchronicity. It happens when your unconscious is active, when you're open. But you can be receptive to it. Think of it like this. Synchronicity is a whisper from your deeper self. If you ignore it, it gets louder. If you listen, it guides you. And over time, you learn its language. But I need to give you a warning. Synchronicity can be misused. First danger, magical thinking. Not everything is a sign. The universe is not sending you secret messages through license plates and cloud shapes. Jung was clear that synchronicity complements causality. It doesn't replace it. You still need logic, reason, and critical thinking. Second danger, paranoia. If you see patterns everywhere, if everything is connected, you're no longer experiencing synchronicity. You're experiencing schizotypal thinking. The key is balance, openness, and skepticism both at once. Third danger, paralysis. Waiting for a sign before you act. No, sometimes you need to act without a sign. Synchronicity guides, it doesn't decide for you. You still have agency. You still choose. Jung's warning was that synchronicity is real, but don't become superstitious. Use it as data, not as dogma. Let it inform your decisions, not make them for you. The healthy approach. Notice synchronicity. consider the meaning, use logic and intuition together, then act with agency. You decide, not the universe. Because ultimately you're not separate from the universe. You are it experiencing itself. And when synchronicity happens, it's you talking to you. Your deeper self speaking through symbols. Synchronicity. When the internal world and the external world align. Not random, not magic, meaningful. Carl Jung spent 30 years studying this phenomenon. He saw it in his patients, in his own life, in history. He couldn't prove it scientifically, but he couldn't dismiss it either. Because once you've experienced real synchronicity, you can't unsee it. We're more connected than we think. The unconscious speaks through symbols. Reality is stranger than we assume. And when you're at a crossroads, when you're undergoing transformation, when you need guidance, the world might just give you a sign. This week, I want you to try something. Pay attention. When something strange happens, don't dismiss it. Ask what it means, write it down, and see what happens. Because once you start seeing synchronicity, you can't unsee it. And maybe, just maybe, the coincidences in your life aren't coincidences at all. Now, in our next video, we're going deeper into something we touched on in our very first video about archetypes. Your shadow self. The part of you that you hide, that you reject, that you pretend doesn't exist. And here's the disturbing part. Your shadow self might be running your entire life, and you don't even know it. We're going to explore why you sabotage yourself, why you repeat the same destructive patterns, and why the thing you fear most about yourself might be the key to becoming whole. It's one of Jung's most important concepts, and it might explain everything. That's next week. Thanks for watching.